4, 3. Well, how's everybody doing? I hope so far you folks have been enjoying the weekend. Today I'm taping. It happens to be Monday, and I'm waiting for the rain to try and break up some of the heat that I feel is starting to climb up my back. But talking about the heat and talking about the weather, that's an example of the change of climate. And God, are we in for a surprise with that? And as you know, or as you should know by now, it's that time. It's the Concerned Forum, and I'm your host, Bob Gumbs. And this is the first Friday, come to think of it. Speaking about a couple of days ago, because this is Monday, but we just passed through the first Friday where Mr. Orange-headed orangutan in the White House didn't have anything to brag on. And that's probably because he's scared as all hell. Because as he probably has come to learn, or is just starting to learn, economics does not play his crazy BS games. Now, I jotted down some notes here, as I usually try and do. And I'm going to try real hard not to get so angry that I skip over my own notes. But I just, I want you guys to understand something. Look, people see things, especially around election time. And what do we say? We say, oh, these jive-ass politicians, blah, blah, blah. Okay? They're always trying to running the same BS game, so on and so forth. But I'm really trying real hard to try and get you folks to understand something. This ain't politics, folks. This has gone way beyond the political. And what we are literally doing, and that's one of the things that Joe Biden is right about, we are literally fighting for the soul of this country. And I really think it's a fight that all of us need to get involved in. But of course, if you like children, toddlers in cages, well then maybe you're listening to the wrong guy. But bear in mind, as I said, this ain't politics as usual. In my life period, as far back as I can remember, and as far back as I can remember, from studying history, we haven't had a president and an executive office, executive administration like what we have now. We have never had such a blatantly public, especially racist president as we've had now. Now, I read in one of those comment lines, some clown, and I mean that literally, was saying, oh, well, they keep picking on Trump, saying he's racist. Black people, they're racist every day. Now, I take into account that whoever wrote that was probably on the loose from some mental institution. But let me educate y'all on something. Racism, bigotry. Bigotry means I don't like you because of who you are, right? That's bigotry. Racism. Racism means I have the power to enact or to enjoy the results of mine or a community's bigoted feelings. That's the big difference. And I think that that's the problem that a lot of people don't understand. Generally speaking, and let's be real, a dark-skinned Latino, a black person, generally, we don't have the power to enforce any bigoted feelings that we might have. We had a black president. I don't think that anybody, any honest person, could say that he worked to enforce his bigotry, whatever his bigotries might be. You know, I mean, you could be bigoted towards pistachio ice cream. I am. Obama did not do that, which is why, and this also includes Republicans in this poll I'm getting ready to mention, Obama is rated as greatest president in my lifetime. Now that poll was done overwhelmingly, predominantly by white Americans. So much for the argument that Obama was divisive or or racist or what have you. See, but what we have with Trump, this is something entirely new. Well, I won't say new. I don't think we've seen anything like this. 1859, maybe. I have not read most of the speeches that Buchanan made, but well, even with Buchanan, he was not so publicly hateful, I would say, as our orange-headed friend, old Donny Boy, appears to be. Now, the nature, and that's what we're facing right now. We're facing a big question. The nature. What is the nature of America? Who are we, right? How did this place, the United States of America, how did we come to be? What do we stand for? How do you become an American? Trump seems intent, him and this guy, what is this no-good bastard's name? The skinny guy with the big bald thing in the middle. What is his name? Stevens, or you know him when you see him. You know, he's the one that made that statement, the president shall not be denied. You know, that clown, right? He's the child of immigrants, oddly enough. He's got a beautiful family, by the way. Seriously, he truly does. If it wasn't for Americans or America taking his family in, they would have all went up in smoke in the Holocaust. So it's kind of ironic that he seems to be the main person inside the White House that is pushing this thing about, well, let's treat the immigrants like subhuman beasts. See, I don't get that. And at the same time, he's telling Trump, yeah, you know, we got to really stomp on him. And yet Trump is running around. He's desperate to try and get people, especially from northwestern Europe, you know, Denmark, Norway, Finland, right? Desperately trying to get those people to come into the United States. And quite frankly, most Western Europeans, I I mean, they'll come back and forth on business somewhat. They'll even, well, not like they used to. Not since it's gotten so crazy over here with the shooting. But generally, you don't have a whole hell of a lot of West European immigrants immigrating to the United States. Okay, they won't do it. They weren't crazy about the idea when I was still in the military, back in the 70s and 80s, and the beginning of the 90s. They, you know, the idea of large amounts of those folks immigrating to the United States is unheard of. We're here in New York, and yeah, you know, you bump into Brits. You're always going to bump into an Australian. You know, Bill Maher's right about that. You know, you go to a party down the village, there's always going to be an Aussie on the couch somewhere. You know, they're cool people like that. But, you know, French, what have you, but not a whole bunch. And, you know, why should they? They don't see it as a place to really enjoy life. They don't see it as a place of, you know, where you can raise children in relative safety. Even the wealthy folks, they don't see that. They can go to university, comparatively speaking, for pennies, or if they pay it all, and you know about their health care, it's what? I was getting ready to say cheaper. I'm trying to wait a minute. I mean, do they even pay anything? From what I remember, that the case is that they don't. You know, you're sick, you go to the hospital, boom, that's it. So you get an excellent education, a classical education. The lifespan is longer. Apparently the health care is better. So why the hell would you want to come here to the United States? And, you know, please don't have me this nonsense about freedom, all right? We are not the only free country in the world. However, and this is something that we need to worry about, freedom is being marched backwards. A large reason for that is because of here in the United States. We are the leader. Pretty soon, that sentence will be, we were the leader of the Western world, thanks to Donald Trump. He hates all of the democratic countries who you're allied with, and he can't get enough of the dictators, Putin, Kim in North Korea, those clowns in Saudi Arabia. You know, it's disgusting, actually. It truly is. To be brought up as an American and to see my country basically turn into an outpost for dictatorships. And that's a bit hard to take, especially when you've worn the uniform. Now, I'll tell you something else. One of the most agonizing and really depressing things here in America that we have going on now is to look at how the working class, not all of it, and when I say working class, this is what I mean. I mean people, their quality of life depends on them getting a paycheck once a week or once every 2 weeks. And I know some people probably, some people get paid once every 3 weeks, what have you, or once a month. But that is who I mean when I refer to the working class. People who have to make a paycheck, they have to bring home a paycheck within a certain, certain time factor, either one, every week or every month. All right, but that is who I see as working class. And it's sad to me the way Trump, with the help of the Republican Party, has been able to basically put the wool over people's eyes. Now, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to be honest. There's also a thing called willful ignorance, right? Unfortunately, that's another problem that you have in America. You have some people who just want to be ignorant, willfully. Now, what is that? A mental aberration of some type? I don't know. Maybe you could call it that. But what I'm talking about is people who want to stay ignorant because they don't like the answers that the facts give them, right? An example. Makes more sense to make sure in the public university, in the public school, in public education, that public education be good and that there is a doorway to higher education, which people themselves don't have to, talk about their family going into bankruptcy, right? Or who basically try to balance work with a full-time job. It makes more sense to basically make sure that we have the health care and the education for people, rather than worrying about building new prisons. You don't have how many master's degrees and PhDs do you see walking around committing crimes against property with violence? Okay, working on a doctorate. Of course not. You don't know. It's a very rare thing at best. But a lot of people, they won't even look at that, right? If you say, yeah, this is something that the state, meaning we, us, as a group, as Americans, we take the responsibility to better the quality of life in our society. The same way you go to the public school in the 6th grade should be the same way that you can go into a state university. And there are, some people out there, they don't want to hear that. See, they don't want to look at the facts. That if you give a person a chance to get an education, and meanwhile make sure that at night he has a place or she has a place to rest their head, you're going to have a much better functioning citizen than this crap about people having to grow up in poverty with no decent health care and being unable to, have a decent meal. But see, that's willful ignorance, right? Sometimes I think that you have a certain type of American, they want to see Western Europe fail, right? Because I guess that it makes them feel good. Because they know that people in Western Europe, generally speaking, they have a much higher quality of life than we do. And in this country, we have become too lazy or just too passive to stand up and demand, well, hey, how come Europe can have so and so? Why can't we? And we're 100 times wealthier than they are. See, those are the questions that some politicians don't like to answer. Now, I'm not saying that the Democrats are all angels, but we do try, okay? I mean, nobody's perfect. Western Europe is not perfect. But we try, and that's supposed to be the name of the game for America, to form a more perfect union. I mean, we got people walking around in this country, and they have no idea what the hell is going on. And that's a damn shame. Because, see, whether you like it or not, being a member of a country, being a citizen of a country, is just like being in the family. Or you could say it's just like, in many respects, it is kind of like being in the military. But if that example is a little bit too rugged for you, okay, we'll stick with the family analogy, right? Because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. In the world now where we're talking about economic competition, things of that nature, how the hell do you think we're going to, be able to keep our heads up if you have a country full of morons, coming off the assembly line over the next 5 to 10 years? Who's going to do the competition? Believe me, a country, we're going to need a hell of a lot more than some bright kicks of maybe Harvard and Yale and what have you. You need to have a population that is aware, that is intelligent. And if you are not working towards that as a society, then what the hell good are you? And see, at least the Democrats, they have an idea that, government's job is to constantly work on improving the quality of life in this country. Republicans, they have no idea, all right? None. They took a real bad turn somewhere around 1927, 26, and they're still trying to find their way back. And unfortunately, they also hooked up with that old caboose, racism. You see, that old American chestnut. And it's funny because right around that time, the Democrats, they're starting to realize, hey, this is not going to make us any money as a country. This is not going to help our quality of life here. And so they started to pull away from that. Very slowly at first, but they did it nonetheless. And see, that's the problem that you have now with the Republican Party. That's how they wound up getting stuck with Trump. And, I'll tell you something else. Now, if you want us to go back to the 19th century, right? Well, fine. Because if you support Trump, that's what that's what you're saying, quite frankly. You want to go backwards in time. Now, don't get me wrong, all right? Just because somebody has some bright idea in 2019 or 2020, does that make it necessarily a good idea because it's new, because it's now? No. I'm not saying that. There are some things that happened back in the 1930s, I think, were pretty damn good ideas, right? But what I'm saying is that overall, we're supposed to be walking forward. How many people you see walking down the street walking backwards? Believe me, you go down to D.C., you see quite a few walking backwards. It's really not a good idea. And see, that's what this guy Trump, that's what he keeps, I don't know, he's harking back to something. All right? The guy is as ignorant as hell A lot of it is willful ignorance, and a lot of it is just plain ignorance. I have my suspicions about the psychological wherewithal of that family of his. But I'm a native New Yorker, and we've been observing these Trumps for, shoot, God knows how long. But you got to ask yourself, where do you want America to be in relation to the rest of the world? I understand. I spent almost 20 some odd years in the military. 25, 26 years in the military in 2 different branches. I understand the hate that many of us feel about this idea we are the world's policemen. I think that's nonsense. I think that we can do a damn good job being the world's leader without being the world's policeman. And see, that's where it takes having good friends and good allies, not only in Western Europe, but around the world, so that you can get people together and talk about things and say something, something pops up. You can go, hello, United Nations, you want to come in? Me, China, Britain, France, about 3 or 4 of the sub-Saharan African countries. Something's happening over there. And we think we can come across, speak together with our allies and with other nations, and maybe we can come to some good conclusions. But you can't do that if you are constantly cursing out and disparaging your allies. It doesn't work that way. Trump is the main person right now on this planet that is trying to push not just the United States, but the whole world back, not back to the future, but back to the past, where, these countries are saying, well, to hell with free trade, to hell with cooperation and working together. It's just my country, the country of, let's call it the country of stupidity, okay? And I'm just going to do what's best for my country, and to hell with everyone else, to hell with the planet. Well, we can do that. And unfortunately, with Trump at the helm, that's what we've been doing. But, the last time the world, especially the industrialized world, got off on that kick about, there's no us, it's just my country, period, and screw everyone else. Last time we went there, a little thing happened called World War I. I forget, what is it, so 50, 60 million people were killed or died from the various plagues that came about because of that war. That's why it's called the Great War. Not because it's good, but because of the size of it, all right? We don't want to go back there. I don't think that you want your children, and especially your grandchildren, to have to go through that. Now, I don't even think, my personal opinion, I don't think that Trump is stable, quite frankly. I can tell you right now, he wouldn't last. I can't think of any branch of the service that he would be welcomed in, quite frankly, either as an enlisted person or as an officer. He just wouldn't be able to make it. because of, number one, because of his behavior, the way that he looks down upon people. Oh yeah, this idea about, well, I like Donald because he speaks his mind. Listen, before somebody speaks their mind, they have to have one, okay? And I cannot see how in the hell, after listening to Trump for all this time, that people cannot see that there's something seriously lacking with this dude. As we say in the Navy, he definitely ain't carrying the full sea bag. And that is to be feared, right? You want to sit up and allow this guy to drag us back to a time when all these various industrialized countries lived like pirates. And when I say like pirates, I mean that they did what they did without any consideration for their neighbors, right? Or for the planet as a whole. And I'll give you an example. Originally, America won the space race, all right? NASA, all that great stuff. And that was, that's a good thing. But to show you how interwoven things are, about two and a half weeks ago, a funny thing happened. Well, actually, a funny thing didn't happen. Because if it did happen, it damn sure would not have been funny. We had what do they call it? A meteorite, right? And it came within 45,000 miles of Earth. Now, if I'm not mistaken, NASA, they have one or two contingency plans. What to do in case of asteroid. That's what it was, an asteroid. What to do in case of asteroid looks like it's going to smack Earth. But see, here goes the problem. They have hit NASA, especially since Trump has been in there, they've hit NASA with so many cutbacks. A lot of the technology that exists that they could have that could tell, well, hey, man, we got an asteroid heading dead for us. So let's hit the contingency plans and take this sucker out or what have you, right? But see, here goes a scary thing. Number one, it was incredibly close. Just, 45,000 miles. And that is like, when you're talking about distance in space, it's about just that much. We didn't see it until it was right on top of us, right on top of planet Earth. See? Now, another example, and I started talking about at the beginning of the program, climate change. Climate change affects the whole planet, right? Every country. It's even started to affect us here in the United States. You get bit by bugs and what have you, and you get bit beginning of October, end of September. Well, then you got to ask yourself, what type of bug was it? Wait a minute, why am I getting bit here in New York? Well, what kind of winter did you have last season? When you start having animals, sharks, for example, you run into a problem where, why are sharks attacking? over this area, at a given area, for example, where it's never happened before. Well, that's because of the change in climate. You know, he talks about, that's another thing, this clown wants to buy, Greenland, okay? Well, I don't know, maybe if he did, maybe he would learn something. Because what's happened in the Arctic, it is scary as hell. Now, I've been up there. We did a couple of cruises up there with the Canadians and who were we with? The French, the NATO thing. And I tell you, from the pictures that I've seen, that area has changed so much. It has gotten so much smaller. And I understand that the ice glaciers or what have you around the North Pole, they are, what's the word I'm looking for, melting billions of gallons of water a day. What do you think that's going to do to Canada? What do you think that's going to do to Miami? So this business with Trump, and what did you call it? This anti-globalism. And I see a lot of working class people who fall for this nonsense. And that's what it is. It's nonsense. Yeah, we have, a planet made up of independent, supposedly sovereign countries. But that really doesn't mean jack, because if something happens to the planet, it affects us all. See, that's why what we need, and Democrats are excellent at this. And believe it or not, your original type Republican, Eisenhower, even Nixon, okay? Give the devil his due. And even, and the Bushes understood. We do not live on this planet by ourselves. See? So this idea that somehow you can shut America off from the rest of the world and expect good things to come from that, that is stupid, that is childish, and it is dangerous. And I have a lot of ideas, but one thing that must happen, we must start to educate our people, the American people, from 8 to 80. We need to educate ourselves in this country so that we know what the hell is going on. Think I'm kidding? Think I'm full of it? Well, guess what? Go out into the Midwest. Go out to the heartland. Talk to all those farmers that have lost their homes, have lost their farms, had to sell off all their cattle and what have you. And these are the people who Trump promised, hey, I got your back. Don't worry about it. I got you, right? You know, one of the big things in farming here in America is all wrapped around? Soybeans. Yeah, soybeans, those soybeans. Because the world needs that. And guess who is getting hammered the most because of Trump and his crazy trade wars? Soybean farmers. And hey, out there in our heartland, that's a big freaking deal. But see, those folks, they trusted in Trump. They trusted in Trump. And I've been looking to see where are all these factories that he claimed were going to come back into the United States. Oh yeah, all they gotta do is see that I'm back, that I'm in charge. And they'll all come running back. And they'll be dumping money all over the heartland. And everything will be wonderful, you know. Baked chicken and gravy not only on Sunday, but on Saturdays too, you know. This is the BS that the Heartland and the Rust Belt fell for. Now go out there and ask them folks. I'm not talking about folks who are doing okay thanks to Obama saving our economy. I don't care. I'm not worried about those folks. I'm worried about the working people. Ask them, has Trump actually done anything to improve their lives? And a lot of them will give you that deer in the headlights stare, and maybe they'll say, well, I really don't know. But knowing all the time that this guy made a chump out of them. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Factories, look, that stuff ain't coming back. And Trump was lying to you when he told you he could bring him back. And you know, the funny thing is, Hillary was not a good campaigner, okay? I have nothing against the lady, but I'm not on this, and that's another thing that these Republicans, they need to answer for. This, you know, oh, we got to burn Hillary. Now, quite frankly, I don't give a damn how often Bill flew down to Paradise Island with, what's his name, Epstein. You know, that's his hang-up. But in terms of Hillary running for president, she really didn't, you know, she didn't lie. The things that she said made a lot of good, you know, good common sense. Now, I was with Bernie Sanders up until he lost the primary, and then I went with Hillary. And I tell people that again and again. And the reason why is because Hillary was qualified to be president of the United States. You know, I wasn't trying to date her. I wanted somebody in the White House that knew their ass from a hole in the ground. And as you can see, he's still trying to find the flashlight so he can find his ass from a hole in the ground. And see, that's one of the things that also it angers me, and I find it also to be pathetic. And see what you have, you know, you have a case of this guy basically playing upon a lot of ignorant ass prejudice. And it's sad to see in the 21st century that you have some Americans that still fall for this BS. This whole, that goes along with this whole thing that Trump is helping to try to give, that he's giving voice to. Telling young white males, yeah, the Democrats and the people of color and a lot of the educated women, they want to replace you. And I'm like, remember Charlottesville? Thousands of young white men carrying torches saying the Jews shall not replace us. Remember that? And that so enrages me. You know, number one, Trump runs this game. Anytime a Democrat says anything critical of Israel, of the Israeli government, he runs this bullshit that, the Democrats hate Israel. They're anti-Semitic. So if I don't like something that the Spanish government is doing, right? I hear about it. I hear that, they're putting a lot of military or police pressure on the Basque over in Spain, right? And I say, I don't like what that Spanish government is doing. So are you going to tell me that I'm anti-Catholic? What kind of crazy, silly crap is this? I don't care for the right-wing government of the Israeli Knesset. That does not make me anti-Semitic. And for Trump, supposedly, he doesn't, I don't know how in the hell anyone out of the 8th grade can see this guy as an American president. He just doesn't get it. He really doesn't get it. And I have the same contempt for those people around him that support this nonsense. When in the hell have we ever had an American president that derided the opposition party because they found something critical that a foreign government is doing? And then he will accuse the folks in the opposition party of being racially or ethnically hateful towards the people of the whole country. It's unbelievable when you sit down and think about it. And that's what I want. I hope the American people, I hope that, we finally stop being afraid to think and actually start doing some thinking. And to me, and I don't know, I ain't no freaking hero, all right? I did what a decent American was supposed to do. But when I was in the Navy, my last command, the command I went to war with, okay, we had a very bad case of anti-Semitism. I was in the fighter squadron out of Jacksonville, Florida, which shouldn't be a big surprise if anybody knows Jacksonville, especially circa 88 to 91, all right? Very racist place, very sexist, and extremely, extremely anti-Semitic. I think probably because you had a lot of Klan and a lot of American Nazi types in North Florida, right? You have to realize that North Florida is just like being in Alabama. When people look at Florida and they look at cool Miami and the pina coladas and everybody on the beach, that's Miami, okay? Fort Lauderdale is cool, but when you start to get up into the northern part of Florida, hey, that's a whole different ball game. And one of the bad things about North Florida for the Navy and Marine Corps is that a lot of people who have that racist culture, coming out of Alabama, Mississippi, Southwest Georgia, right, South Carolina, they all, a lot of times, depending upon their specialty, what their job specialty is, they'll head for Florida, especially North Florida, like Jacksonville. And what's the other one? And Pensacola. Because they're in that southeastern, southern radius, see? And that's one of the things that make being stationed in Jacksonville, that's what made it so difficult. And I love the Navy, and I always loved the Navy. I won't really hold the Navy too much responsible for what I saw and what I dealt with. because that's just the way it is. That neck of the woods. We were fortunate in that the CO that we had when I got there, eventually they got rid of him. I mean, his time was up, and it started to get better. And by the time my enlistment was up, it was outstanding. The CO was outstanding. The XO was outstanding. And that was a good thing. Just unfortunately, my late wife, we were expecting our child, and she was having a difficult pregnancy. And I was emotionally spent from dealing with all the hate which I had aroused because I let it be known that I didn't care to hear this anti-Semitic crap. And, for people to constantly, Navy people to keep making, and saying derogatory things about Jews. And I'll be honest about it, there's a certain self-interest. When I hear people saying things against Hispanics, against blacks, against Jews especially, against Asians, I don't like that, all right? Number one, because I know damn well behind my back, I know what they were saying about me. I was told what was said about me. And I offered time and time again that somebody had a problem with the color of my skin, come to my face and we'll deal with it. But that never happened. But they felt that it was cute for them to talk against Jews, to talk against Hispanics. And I tell you, that's one of the things I did learn, unfortunately. And I'm out of New York. I'm right out of Harlem. And, Catholic school and the whole bit. And I never heard people talk against Hispanics, especially Mexicans, speak against them and speak against Jews, like I heard at that in that squadron, in that fighter squadron there in Jacksonville. It was a mess. It really was. NAS Cecil Field, I'll never forget it. VFA 81. It was something. It really was. I couldn't believe I was in the Navy. I really couldn't believe it. And then, see, I had just spent almost 5 years stationed in the White House and the Pentagon. And I even worked part-time for a year in '86 as a congressional aide on Capitol Hill. And I know what somebody out there might, some folks out there might think, oh, well, you were just so used to people being politically correct, being stationed there in D.C. and being, next, standing next to and, going to cocktail parties with the Assistant Chief of Naval Ops and Head of Intelligence and what have you, that you forgot what it, you didn't know what it felt like to be in a line seagoing unit. And I politely say, well, that's bullshit, because before I got to D.C. and to being assigned with the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, I had spent almost 3 years as a reactor department yeoman on an aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz. Some of y'all might have heard about the Nimitz. So I wasn't some greenhorn when I got to Jacksonville. I was an old salted petty officer by the time I got to Jacksonville. When did I get there? In '88. So that's bullshit, all right? You just had a lot of problems in that particular unit. And those problems came about because of the type of people that you had in one environment, in that area, that North Florida area. And wow, pardon me for the usage, but my supervisor, my immediate supervisor, beautiful Mexican American brother, man, and he was a cool dude. And the head of the office, you know, this guy would come in, and the head of the office would say, you know, hey, good morning, wetback. And I'm like, oh, wow, what was this? You know, this guy's a senior petty officer. You say, good morning, what? Good morning, wetback? Yo, man. And other, you know, another one he had is bean picker. Yeah, man, good morning, bean picker. And I'm like, yo, dude, man, let's, you know, ice this son of a bitch. What was his name? I can't remember the brother's name, his first name. But I'm not going to say his last name. But that shit really amazed me. It really did. You know, here I am in the Navy, a petty officer. I'm in a fighter squadron. And, you know, they're, good morning, bean picker, good morning, wetback. The hell kind of shit? What year is this? Is this 1941? I thought it was 1988. And I'm hearing all this shit. And then his tirades against women officers because they had college degrees. And oh God, I wonder sometimes if the guards in those concentration camps, well, the things that these guys said about Jews, they would have fit right in. And it blew my head. It really did. You know, I couldn't. That was rough. It really. I mean, I complained about it. I spoke on it, and eventually, the Hispanic brother, he got transferred because he wasn't there when the new CO became CO. I stopped for a moment because I'm trying to remember just when he left. But he left before I did. I guess because he was staying in also. And I made up my mind when I saw my wife having problems. So between that and, like I say, there was stress involved coping with this hate, this ethnic racial hate thing, you know. So anyway, that's why I take a personal umbrage at what Trump did. As a matter of fact, I might write an article about this because I think it's necessary. Because this business about you going to attack the Democratic Party and call us anti-Semitic when it is your followers, it's his followers that march around saying Jews shall not replace us. And I don't think, I don't think that's right. I truly don't. And that's just like the scam that people like Trump used to pull here in New York, trying to set the different ethnic groups of color against each other. And the sad thing is, unfortunately, we had to learn it the hard way. But now we understand that these racists, they don't give a damn if you are black American, if you are black from the Caribbean, if you are black or brown from the Caribbean, or Central America or South America, or if you make a Chicano, or if you are indigenous, doesn't make a difference. Or even if you are a Jewish person, it doesn't make a difference. You're scum as far as they're concerned. They all read out that same book. What is that? The manual for the Aryan Revolution here in America? I can't remember the name. Anyway, it's time that people stop playing this hate game. And that's what Trump is doing. And people need to stand up and speak out against it. I reserve the right to dislike any particular government that I choose. But that does not give anyone the right to accuse me of hating anyone because of their ethnic background. That's nonsense. Because then I like to ask him, well, Mr. Trump, if you love Israel so much, then why aren't you doing more to fight anti-Semitism here in the United States? Because I noticed he didn't seem to get that damned upset when those good and decent, innocent 11 people were slaughtered by that no-good anti-Semite that killed them. I didn't see Donald Trump out there raising a whole lot of hell. And those were Jewish Americans. And I didn't hear from Trump. Holocaust Day passes by, he don't say one freaking word about the Jews that were murdered because of people who espoused his bullshit ideas. And see, you don't play with people like that, Donald. Now, I understand that you are desperate to try and win re-election. You are like a wounded animal, and that's what makes you so goddamn dangerous. And I hope the folks out there start to, realize this. Trump is a wounded animal because people are starting to see through his bullshit game. And any hunter will tell you, a wounded animal is the most dangerous animal. And we have to keep this in mind. Remember, if Trump loses re-election, there is a very, very good chance, just in terms of being a sexual, not pervert, but a sexual prowler, he has 23 women who say that he either mauled them or raped them, okay? That's just on the women's side. That's just talking about the sex thing, okay? Just on sex alone. He has 23 people, 23 ladies that want to nail his butt to the wall. We're not talking about the tax records, the dealings with the Russians, okay? Bank records. I mean, they've investigated him for what? Damn near over a dozen things. So if he loses re-election, he will eventually wind up going to jail, more than likely. At the very least, he is going to be paying out billions and billions of dollars. If he has billions and billions of dollars, he's such a phony, he's been such a faker and a phony all of his life. So who the hell really knows what he has? Remember, this is the guy that went bankrupt 6 times. I don't think he could even join the military, having those kind of bankruptcy with the amounts of money involved. And I know what our Constitution says, and I stand behind it. But I do think it's kind of scary when you have a president of the United States that would fail being able to go into any branch of the military, and he would definitely be ruled out of getting any type of security clearance if we were in a sane country. And I know I'm a progressive myself. I'm a militant Democrat, a militant progressive Democrat. But I say that the first thing we have to do when the ship is caught in a storm and in danger of being ripped apart, the first thing you have to do, you got to get the calm waters. You just got to. And that's what we need to have in this country. We need to get sanity back. Once we have sanity back, then we can sit down around the table and discuss things like sane, intelligent grown-ups. And then we can say, well, yeah, well, this works. This looks like it will work. We're going to do this. Right now, you can't do a goddamn thing because he's trying to get half the country to say, oh, well, you're a communist, you're a socialist. Since when is doing anything to help working class Americans something to throw rocks at, something to be called radical? I tell you what's radical. What's radical is shooting down 22 people because you think that they're Hispanic. That's radical. And what's even more radical is the fact that you have a president of the United States that encouraged the guy who shot down those 22 people. That's radical. That's what I worry about. So, see, I'm starting to get angry again. But anyway, well, oh, I see it's just about, my time's just about up on this, for this show. But, yeah, that's what we have going on in this country. Okay, that's what we have happening. And I want folks to be aware of that. Next show I do, we're going to talk about this whole business between the various ethnic groups, between Hispanic, African American, African American, Caribbean, all right? Because we need to know exactly who we are, where we're from. That way, we don't have to worry about people like Donald Trump trying to turn us against each other. See, remember, that's how he flourishes. When he can get people hating and being angry at each other. That's how he wins. And we can't let that happen anymore because we need to go to a future where people can live in this country without fear and without the hatred. And that's what we need to be about. Listen, bless you all, and I will see you next week, same time, same place. And tell your friends about the Concern Forum. And when you see my shows on YouTube, if you click and say you happen to like them, I really would appreciate it. Take care. Bye.